So greetings, our beloved colleague Chenai. Did I pronounce that right? And what does your name mean, my
Yes,
sister?
did. Chenai is a Shona word. The full name would be Chenai Moyo, and it means be pure.
That's incredible. So as always at Setsi, we begin by acknowledging our creator. We begin by acknowledging all the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We acknowledge all our ancestors. We acknowledge all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. So once again, welcome, my beloved sister. My first question is really straightforward. What inspires you about your work? And can you share a bit about your remarkable work with our listeners and our viewers?
Oh, where to start? I would say what inspires me about the work is the impact. I think it's one of the few times where you can see instant impact, because you're literally saying, this person may have had a terrible ailment or may have died, but because of the work that our physicians did, we're changing outcomes. I think Black community is disproportionately represented in almost every chronic condition. We are now saying, let's get the data. Let's actually be able to tell the story so that we can understand our impact better. But we even have, I'll even say, like, just recently we did an event where the Minister of Health was there, and she acknowledged that some of our work through things, initiatives like the Black Health Plan, is what led to that breast cancer screening, how do I say, like the age going lower, right? And a lot of our colleagues were with us on that. So for me, it's understanding that there are women next year who are not going to get breast cancer or be treated for breast cancer early just because of that.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. So the Black Physician Association of Ontario, what is the mission? What's the mandates?
The mandate is definitely equitable representation of Black physicians in Ontario. So it's two-pronged, right? We want to help future physicians, current physicians, and residents. And then that's like the medical education side, and we have a lot of work to link to that. And then ultimately Black community, because we are saying we believe in racial concordance, i.e. that you should be able to get care from people who understand your experience, who look like you, speak like you, right? Because there's so much interpretive labor, emotional labor that comes with communicating with healthcare providers. And we know, when you've heard about even maternal health, where it's like your life depends on it, and that your provider actually, listens to you and looks like you. So we want, it's a both and, with a grander vision that, Black healthcare in Ontario and eventually in Canada is going to look different.
Absolutely. I was so grateful when my wife found women's health in women's hands. I remember we have 4 children and arguing with the midwives in the hospital, and just navigating that energy. So when you speak about the interpretive labor and cultural considerations of care, and yeah, it's just so important. So once again, I give thanks for your leadership, visionary leadership, and diligence. And my next question is, what challenges and barriers do you and your colleagues face? And what are some of the approaches or techniques you're using to overcome them?
Yeah, I think the first is right now we are basically in a recession, right? And so we already know that Black organizations are underfunded. So I always joke and say we're trying to cure cancer with $10 all the time, right? So there's obviously that sustainability side of it. We're a very small but mighty team. A lot of what we do is from volunteer physicians. We just kind of give them an honorarium, but they do this because they care, not because their work is actually being valued at the right level right now. So that's one challenge, right? Being able to have the right capacity to do the work, and also to have the reach. You'll have a success story in one, you have a success story in one community health center, but you want it to be across the region, right? We were just in Sudbury last week, and not even half of the work that we're doing in Toronto is happening there, right? So we want to make sure that there is reach in our work, there is breadth, and we are doing train the trainer where possible, because there are a lot of small things that would make a huge impact in health, and we want to see that happen. So that's one really big challenge. So again, like I say, the reach side. And then the third challenge I would say is obviously perceptions. When you are trying to do something that's looking exclusively at one community, there are a lot of people who get their peas in a bonnet about it. Why only Black people? why can't we do this across the board? You know, BIPOC people, and I will tell you, the same way you need a niche approach to Indigenous health, Black health needs the same thing. We need people who are, you know, who have their lane. It's very hard to be an everything person. And we know these DEI people are burnt out. We are helping some of them, right, in our work, but you can't just have one person and be like, that's our DEI, that's everything, because this is healthcare. This is literally people's life, not something we put as conveniences.
Absolutely. Like the concept of DEI even bothers me right now. At Setsi for the past year, we've been using JADE, justice, access, inclusion, diversity, and equity. And the concept that you can be one thing to everyone is just nonsensical. We especially around something as important as healthcare. So once again, on behalf of myself, my colleagues, my family, we just laud your leadership and excellence that you present and demonstrates for so many. We really appreciate you. So my next question is, do you have a set of key priorities right now in your work?
Definitely. So we have a project called the Network for the Advancement of Black Learners. As you know, Ontario has a shortage of about 14,000 physicians currently. So there's a physician shortage in general, and there is physician burnout in general. But we find that obviously our physicians are even more burnt out because they have extra challenges, you know, around discrimination that their colleagues might not have, but also they are, how do I say, they have compassion fatigue. They don't really know to say no to some of these things because they're like, who else is going to do it? Who else is going to do it? That's what it's been for so long. So we are responding to, you know, the healthcare for the African refugees. We were doing some of that work, but also there is the work around, are the medical schools, especially the new ones that are propping up, at a stage where they're ready to accept our learners, right? Because medical education is especially hard for our learners, right? We did some research with BMSAC, a Black Medical Student Association of Canada, a few years back, and they were essentially 6 pillars that we discovered make it very difficult for people to become fully fledged physicians. So this was, you know, your curriculum is entirely mainstream. There's nothing, there's nothing about us. You struggle to find mentorship. You know, a lot of the faculty tend to not be people of color, and they don't take up mentoring some of these learners, right? Even in residents especially, we find there's a lot of the discrimination. So we combine those 2 pillars of like a lack of disaggregated data collection, right, about like things around like the race of learners and their experiences, but also incidences of reporting mistreatment, right? They aren't, the infrastructure isn't there that when something happens, there's someone you talk to. So what that means is they call Chenai and they'll say, this is what happened today. My director did this to me. What do I do? So it's like I, you know, do some de facto therapy there. Oh. And then you also have, how many have I gone through? I think I've gone through about 4. Wellness, because obviously you're not going to be well when everything is just against you. Like you're trying to study, you're having challenges. You're trying to apply for this thing, you're having challenges. And then we also find that, you know, especially for the IMGs, that intercultural piece, they can be a bit more targeted. I find that our Muslim residences also get, you know, if you're Black with a hijab, it's like a double whammy. So those kinds of things, we are trying to support some of those areas. I wonder which one am I forgetting now? We did the curriculum, we did, learner to physician pipeline. So when you're transitioning from a resident to a physician, or when you're transitioning from student to resident, those can be a very tough change because you're going into a different environment. Sometimes we are entirely unsupported. And so we're trying to be able to bridge that, you know, because to give you an example, BSAP at Timorty, some of our members were part of the ones who created that Black student application program. And that led to a near 10-fold increase in Black medical learners, you know, being registered in school. So that is direct impact, but we want to see more of that. So we want to get to a point where we are represented in the right way. There's 2.7% of the physician population is Black, but it really should be, you know, at least 5% by now.
Absolutely, absolutely. At Setsi, data is one of our love languages, and that comprehensive research, especially the 6 pillars, not only makes sense, it's remarkable that you were able to gather that data, Like we're just such firm believers that the collection of data, the governance of data, stewardship of data, and dissemination of data has to be owned for us and by us. And historically, data has been weaponized against us, especially in the medical profession. So I really appreciate this stellar leadership in terms of your research. And yeah, like you're decolonizing the space. So we give thanks. We really give thanks.
I do have to say though, their names, when you're saying acknowledging those, our past president, Dr. Onyenaram, was instrumental in making a lot of things happen, especially around that George Floyd era when she was president. Our current president, Dr. Andrew Thomas, we're a dynamic duo. We get to do a lot of work. And then even our board is entirely made up of physicians with, I think, like one lawyer and one person who works in finance and property development. And people like Dr. Miriam Rossi, who was one of the just amazing people who helped found us so long ago. So these people are pushing things in. Oh, I have to also say Dr. Dominic Shelton, shout out to him as well. He helped organize basically a program where learners can go do a summer experiential with CHC serving racialized community to address that curriculum piece. And that's something we've kept, taken over. So these are the things. They're doctors who care. Like, you just need to start with caring. And that's where the impact begins. So I had to say that because I can't take credit for any of it. I am not a physician myself. I'm a cheerleader. I am hands and feet where needed.
Amen. Amen. Your mother named you correctly. Be pure. Yes. You provided such integrity and such class in terms of and humility and grace in terms of sharing all those names of those community stalwarts and elders who have led this work. And once again, even the cheerleading that you're doing right now in terms of amplifying the model and scaling the brand is truly remarkable. So once again, congratulations. We give thanks. Say it again.
That's how we do in our culture. We ululate.
So how do you feel about the future of healthcare in the Black community across Ontario and Canada?
I mean, with who I've seen literally changing the game of healthcare, like our members who are, how do I even say, they do not need inspiration leading innovation around healthcare for Black communities. So for me, I would say as long as they're supported, as long as they continue to be able to do what they're doing, getting the funding, getting the continues being buy-in in the places that matter, I think amazing things can happen. We're going to see changes in sickle cell. We're going to see changes in screening and treatment. We're going to see changes in even access to a primary care physician, right? Because when we look at things like mobile clinics, we are trying to as many alternative models as possible to make sure everyone actually has a doctor. And similar to what you said earlier, eugenics, there's a reason why it started in this sector. This is that last fortress and institute that we need to take over. And I am proud. We've got Black nephrologists, we've got black oncologists, we've got Black people, like a FUBU model, to healthcare.
Absolutely, absolutely. So what is your ultimate goal and what does success look like to you and your colleagues?
Oh, I mean, the ultimate goal is for us to be able to get to a point where obviously race does not factor into the quality of care a person has or their outcomes in life. And I would say, I would love to see the community be holistically well. The village model that we started out with, worked for a reason. A lot of the things we're trying to solve now, you're like, well, if that person was in a village, what is homelessness in a village? What is poverty? What is lack? I think that model was entirely about abundant flowing and abundance. So Ubuntu, that community aspect, that is what we want to see happening. And so we're having to almost like turn it into a theory and put science behind it. But that's what's really coming out, that going back to what we always were, like eating naturally and healthy, that changes the outcome. I mean, going back to what I said about cancer, we are eating, breathing, feeling, and thinking ourselves into cancer, right? And so what does it look like to be so at peace and eating so well and living in, thriving so much that you are 100% well? That's something that's still a work in progress, right? So that I'd say is my ultimate goal and vision. Everyone else would probably have something different, but for me, that's what it is. Let's give people the best options so they make the best choices so that they're living their optimum lives. Like right now, we're all just, we're settling, and we shouldn't settle on health.
Ashe, 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 my sister. So, do you have any closing thoughts or calls to action for our listeners and viewers?
Definitely back Black. Like, we can't do this if we're not growing together as a community. I think in everything you're doing, just always make sure that you are, including that as well. Like, if you are at a table making important decisions, always think about what does the Black cause of this situation look like, and make sure you push hard. Also, to do things like donate, pay it forward where you are. We have a lot of amazing community ambassadors who, once they learn about different things to address care, they go off and they tell everybody else. When we were doing that pandemic project, we got help in the mosques, in the churches, in the barbershops, in these spheres of influence. So really think about what your sphere of influence is, and make an impact, right? And I guess my last call to action is, if you are Black, please fight for your health. Fight for your health, because if you're not here, there's a lot of things we're not able to do in the future. I believe in interdependence. We can't do the work we can unless we have allies, unless we have comrades, unless we have people who are in the fight with us. So those, I think, would be my closing thoughts for now. And if you're a Black physician and you're not a member, what are you doing? What are you doing with your life? Please join us. www.bpao.org.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, our beloved sister, for your remarkable visionary leadership. We really appreciate you. And as always, we close at Setsi the way we began, by acknowledging our creator, by acknowledging the original stewards of the various lands we're on. We acknowledge all our ancestors, all those who toiled without compassion or compensation. We acknowledge all our elders and community stalwarts whose shoulders we stand on as we build, share, and learn together for our collective liberation and sovereignty. Thank you so much, family. We really appreciate you.
Thank you for having me.